Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to uncover a reality about human progress that is hidden, awe-inspiring, and honestly, kind of terrifying. We're talking about the fragile ascent of our species.
Look, we all grew up with a very specific story about how human civilization developed, right? But I want you to really ask yourself, what if human history isn't just a straight line? What if that steady, predictable march of progress we all learned about in school is actually missing some massive, dramatic chapters? Okay, let's dive right into this. The standard textbook timeline paints this super neat picture of steady, linear progress. Humans figure out farming, they build small villages, and then eventually, boom, they invent cities. But the archaeological reality, the stuff hidden literally right under the dirt, tells a totally different, much more unsettling truth. It reveals interrupted cycles. Times where massive, incredibly sophisticated societies sprang up, thrived, and then just vanished.
For literally a century, mainstream archaeology relied on a very strict sequence as the absolute rule of law. It goes like this. First, you invent farms. Farms then create a food surplus. That surplus allows people to settle down in permanent cities, and only then can you organize the labor to build monumental architecture. The assumption was really simple. No farming, no pyramids. No farming, no civilization.
But then, in 1981, a forestry worker stumbled onto something hidden deep in the Louisiana underbrush that abruptly shattered that entire model. The site is called Watson Break, and it dates all the way back to 3500 BCE. And the people who built this massive, geometrically deliberate earthwork complex, well, they weren't farmers. They were hunter-gatherers. That completely proves that monumental construction absolutely did not need agriculture to exist.
Just to put into perspective how mind-bending this timeline actually is, Watson Break predates the Great Pyramid of Giza by nearly 2,000 years, and it predates Stonehenge by a whole millennium. Ancient Americans were out there engineering the Earth, while Egyptian civilization didn't even exist yet in any recognizable form.
And you know, this wasn't just some one-off anomaly. Look at Mound Key. It's a 32-foot-high island engineered entirely out of billions of discarded seashells by the Calusa Kingdom. They built a massively complex civilization not on farming, but completely on fishing. Or take Poverty Point, another massive earthwork complex in Louisiana, built by hunter-gatherers who had no draft animals, no wheels, and absolutely no crops. They broke every single academic rule in the book.
To truly grasp the unbelievable feats of these ancient Americans, just consider Mound A at Poverty Point. It rises 72 feet into the air. Archaeologists estimate it required 15.5 million basket loads of soil. And the most shocking part? The evidence suggests that a workforce of hunter-gatherers completed the whole thing in a continuous sprint of less than 90 days. I mean, the organizational genius required to mobilize and feed thousands of laborers for a task like that, it's just staggering.
Section 1. Impossible Ancient Engineering. Geometry without written math.
Now compare Cahokia, which sits right across the Mississippi River from modern St. Louis, to medieval London. Back in 1250 CE, Cahokia's population of over 20,000 actually dwarfed London. And right at its center was Monk's Mound. This was a colossal earthwork with a base covering 14 acres. That gives it a footprint literally larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Or consider the Newark Earthworks in Ohio, built by the Hopewell culture. These people aligned massive earthen enclosures. We're talking giant circles and octagons with the 18.6-year lunar standstill cycle. And they did it with perfect precision, tracking a nearly 19-year celestial oscillation across multiple generations just to build a 4-square-mile geometric complex, all without standardized measurement systems or metal tools. It's a scientific project that absolutely defies belief.
But then we encounter this incredibly eerie, recurring theme in the ancient Americas. Despite all their brilliance, the builders of Cahokia, the astronomers of Chaco Canyon, the laborers of Poverty Point, they simply walked away. There are no signs of massive conquest or war. The plazas just emptied out, the solar calendars rotted away, and these bustling metropolises were quietly abandoned to the elements.
So that brings us to a pretty dizzying question, which is really the crux of our explainer today. If these societies were so incredibly advanced, so deeply attuned to the earth and the sky, why did progress stop? Why did they just vanish?
Section 2. The Earth's Erase Button. When the planet resets the board.
Take a second to absorb this number, 3,000 to 10,000. Just sit with the smallness of that for a moment.
Think about a tiny local sports stadium with plenty of empty seats to spare.
That number represents the estimated global human population after the Toba supervolcano detonated in Sumatra 74,000 years ago. It ejected a mind-numbing 2,800 cubic kilometers of material into the sky, triggering a brutal volcanic winter. Every single human alive today, every civilization, every language descends from that tiny, bottlenecked group of survivors who somehow endured a poisoned sky. Our entire existence literally rests on a near miss.
And the sky struck back again. About 12,800 years ago, we see the Younger Dryas impact. A suspected cosmic detonation over the North American ice sheets triggered continent-spanning wildfires and plunged the Earth into 1,200 years of deep cold. Megafauna were totally wiped out, and the Clovis culture, which was this advanced, widespread people in the Americas, instantly vanished from the archaeological record, completely resetting the biological and cultural trajectory of an entire hemisphere.
Or consider Doggerland. During the Mesolithic era, this was a thriving, highly habitable continent connecting Britain to mainland Europe. But roughly 8,200 years ago, a massive submarine landslide off Norway called the Storgega Slide unleashed a 20-meter-high tsunami. In a single afternoon, an entire European continent and its tens of thousands of inhabitants were swallowed by what is now the cold, dark North Sea.
Section 3. Our fragile chapter. The 4.2 Kiloyear event.
Now, you might be thinking these cataclysms only happened to hunter-gatherers in the deep, shadowy past. But let's zoom out. Exactly 4,200 years ago, a single shift in global weather patterns dismantled completely unconnected civilizations all at once. The Akkadian Empire in Mesopotamia was buried by a 200-year drought. Over in Egypt, diminished Nile flooding fractured the Old Kingdom. And in the Indus Valley, shifting monsoons dissolved advanced cities like Harappa. It proves just how incredibly vulnerable we all are to the planet's atmospheric whims.
Or take the Minoans, Europe's first great civilization. Around 1600 BCE, the Thera volcano exploded with a force 4 times stronger than Krakatoa. The resulting tsunamis and ash clouds completely obliterated the Minoan coastal cities and their trade networks in just one afternoon. It was an event so sudden and absolute, it very likely birthed the famous myth of Atlantis.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to take away this humbling thought. The Earth keeps its own ledger, and it certainly doesn't consult ours. The volcano is still there. The water is still rising. The exact same geological and cosmic forces that wiped out our brilliantly advanced ancient ancestors are still actively surrounding us today.
Which kind of leaves us looking down at the ground beneath our feet, questioning the permanence of everything we consider modern. Are we really the inevitable pinnacle of human progress, or are we just the latest, fragile chapter, waiting for the Earth to reset the board? Think about that the next time you look up at the sky.